Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. How are you, my dear students of grade 5? I hope you will be fine. Here's your teacher, Mrs. Nola, for the subject of English reading and writing. My dear students, today I am going to read out a story that is actually our lesson number 1 of unit 1 with the title of Fresh Idea. You can find this story from page number 22 to 25 in your English reading book. This lesson aims to improve the learner's reading skill, and also it will help you familiarize with a story's narration. Now, this is the title of the story, A Fresh Idea. In the story, you will find 4 main characters: Molly, Molly's mother, Mr. Taylor, and Mrs. Fair. Okay, Molly is a little girl, and then we have her mother in the story. In the beginning, they both are talking about something. And Mr. Taylor is the neighbor of Molly and Molly's mother, and Mrs. Fair. Mrs. Fair is a woman who has been selling tomatoes in the area of Molly. Now she has stopped selling and growing tomatoes. And according to genre, this story, A Fresh Idea, is a realistic fiction. Now we are going to begin our story here. I hope you will have opened your book on page number 22. As you can see, this is the main title page of the story. Let's begin the story. One bright Saturday morning, Molly and her mom walked around the neighborhood. That is, her mom walked, but Molly ran, escaped, jumped over puddles, and visited the neighbors' dogs. Molly paused to look at the budding trees on her block. "I can't wait until summer," she said, "especially for Mrs. Fair's great tomatoes at her market stand," she pointed. Molly's mom stood looking at the empty lot where the market set up every summer weekend. She looked at Molly. "Honey, Mrs. Fair told me last week that she had to close her stand. She's really getting too old to run it anymore." Molly turned, stared, and put her hands on her hips. "But Mrs. Fair's stand can't close," she said. "It's the only place in the neighborhood we can buy fresh, delicious tomatoes." Then she added, to show she wasn't being selfish, "Everyone needs fruits and vegetables for a healthy diet." After they got home, Molly headed out to her backyard swing to think, "If only I could plant a garden," she thought, "but our yard is way too small." Just then she noticed her neighbor, Mr. Taylor, looking at his daffodils. Molly knew he was thinking about how he had planted those flowers with his wife. This was the first spring since his wife had died, and Molly saw the sadness on his face. Then she had an idea. So far we have studied the first page of the story. Here you can see he is Mr. Taylor, the neighbor of Molly. Okay. After the death of his wife, he is looking very sad, and most of the time he is spending only to take care about the daffodils. Daffodils are beautiful flowers. Okay, the next page, page number 24. The first paragraph of page number 24 starts with these words. Molly cleared her throat and Mr. Taylor looked up. Molly decided to walk over to the fence. "Hi, Mr. Taylor," she said. He waved and turned away. "Wait," Molly cried, taking a risk while she still felt brave. She rushed to gather her thoughts. "Mr. Taylor, Mrs. Fair isn't doing her tomato stand anymore because she is getting old. So I would like to grow tomatoes. I don't want to get in the way of your flowers, though I really like tomatoes." Suddenly Mr. Taylor smiled. "Molly, I am not sure what you are talking about, but you have made me smile. Reasons to smile have been scarce lately. What do you want to do?" As Mr. Taylor listened, an idea came to him. "I still need a place to plant my flowers, but there is room for tomatoes. How about I make you a loan? I will let you use a plot of land in my yard. I will help you, and when your garden starts to prosper, you can repay me with a few tomatoes." Molly and Mr. Taylor shook hands on this deal. "But first," Mr. Taylor said, "you will have to make an investment by buying some tomato plants at the nursery." Molly thought, well, I have some savings from my allowance and I was saving to buy a computer game. She paused. But I would rather have tomatoes, so let's start right away. The next day, Molly bought all the tomato plants she could afford. Mr. Taylor taught Molly how to prepare the soil and place the plants. Finally, Molly placed stakes in the ground to help hold the plants up. Mr. Taylor explained, once the tomatoes come, the heavy fruit makes the branches bend. Then all the way could do was water, pull weeds, and wait. At the bottom of page number 24, you can see Molly and her neighbor, who is Mr. Taylor. They are having a discussion about the plantation of tomato plants. Okay, Molly wants to grow tomato, but she doesn't have any place. So she is convincing Mr. Taylor to let her grow tomato plants in her backyard. And somehow Mr. Taylor also agrees to this idea. Now, my dear students, I will start reading the story from page number 25 here. When the fruit ripened, there were more juicy red tomatoes than even Molly could have imagined. There is no way I can eat all these, she realized. On Saturday, Molly and Mr. Taylor carried several crates of ripe tomatoes to the market, and by the day's end, they had sold them all. Not only did I get back the money I invested, said Molly, but I also made a profit of $20. Mr. Taylor said, those are also your wages. You have earned that money. Molly beamed and said, Mr. Taylor, maybe you could sell some of your flowers and we could run a market stand together. Mr. Taylor, picturing a garden of zinnias and marigolds, was already looking forward to next summer. Now you can see Molly has grown a lot of tomatoes, not only for her personal needs, these tomatoes are enough, but she's also planning to sell these tomatoes so she could earn some money. So this is our story, very interesting. This is a realistic fiction. My dear students, please read the story again and try to understand the characterization. Thank you very much for attending this online lecture. See you next time. Till then, bye bye.